I'm thrilled to be with this panel. I'm Angela Siefer. I'm the Executive Director of the National Digital Inclusion Alliance. At NDIA, we often talk about how our affiliates, the folks that are doing the digital inclusion work, are the heroes. So we have 3 heroes with me today, which I am super excited to have this conversation with. Okay, friends. We have 3 unique people from 3 unique situations, and we have rural, suburban, tribal kind of situations. So we're going to go through, and I'm going to have each of them give you a short hello, who are they, and then we're going to jump into some more questions. Candace, would you like to get us started?
I'm Candace Browdy. I'm the Executive Director of Connect20. We're based in the northeastern part of Illinois, doing broadband digital equity work. We serve urban, suburban communities, so low-income communities, high percentages of people of color, an incredible amount of individuals for whom English is not their first language, and many low-income residents.
Fabulous. Thank you. Walter?
I'm Walter Prescher. I'm the Digital Navigator for Eastern Seals Greater Houston. I'm part of their Bridging Apps team, which deals specifically with individuals or using technology to improve the lives of those with a variety of disabilities. I serve primarily the rural communities, a lot of veterans and a lot of individuals with disabilities. I serve 16 counties around the Houston area.
Hi, my name is Kendall, Lee-Daugherty. I'm the Digital Navigator for Cherokee Nation, and I service 7,000 square miles of the community. And I essentially primarily focus on tribal indigenous communities and those individuals, but I also assist non-tribal individuals as well in my community.
Super. Thank you all. About 2 years ago, NDIA got a grant from Google.org to set up the National Digital Navigator Corps. And Kendall and Walter are digital navigators in that program. And Candace is a super active member of the NDIA community. We're thrilled with everything that these folks are doing. And I think it's important for us to talk about the difference in the communities that you serve. So Walter, let's start with you. How do you, hearing, because you're in the cohort of digital navigators, you are active on the NDIA listserv, you know what else is happening. How do you see your work serving veterans and these more rural areas as being in any way different from serving other communities?
One of the main ways that serving, especially the rural communities, is so much different is the lack of infrastructure.
Okay.
The Broadband Development Office, especially in Texas, has been doing a lot of great work on the last mile connectivity. I still have a lot of clients that have a 30 to 45-minute drive to the nearest library or McDonald's or any place that has a Wi-Fi access connection. A lot of them, the only connection they have out on their farms and ranches is either like HughesNet or Viasat, some form of satellite internet. And in many cases, we're starting to see more and more access to fixed wireless. So helping them even find an ISP is a lot more challenging than the suburban and urban areas. Plus the access to technology. So, in a suburban area, you can drive to Best Buy or Walmart, you can buy a laptop or a tablet. Right. These people have quite a drive and oftentimes don't even know what to get or what to begin to look for.
Right. Okay, let me ask you about the satellite. Approximate cost for satellite service?
Most of the clients I've helped transition from satellite to fixed wireless, we're paying anywhere from $145 to $200 a month.
Kendall, you're nodding at that. That's been your experience also?
Yes. So with the rural community in Northeast Oklahoma, there's a very lack of options in terms of who we can use for internet service providers. Mm-hmm. Some are fixed wireless, and some are broadband, but majority of them, they're going to be HughesNet, Viasat, and they are still working on Starlink in some of the rural areas. So even Starlink is not even an option yet. Right. The rural part of Oklahoma, or at least the rural part of the country, seems to be the big issue in terms of who we have available for ISP providers and how often they are actually going to be stable ISP providers.
So one of the things that NDIA does when we're training digital navigators is help them identify who the internet service providers are. So can either of you talk a little bit about how you keep up with anything that's changing in terms of folks, the territory that any of those providers are available in, those kinds of issues?
You want to go first, Walter?
Of course, there's a lot of variety of websites available. The state has some access. Texas does a fairly decent job of keeping their database up to date. Thankfully, my brother works in the IT field and has connections with the ISP, so a lot of times he gives me heads up when an ISP is expanding their territory. And then I take all that information. I spend probably 2 days every month going through, verifying that information, talking to ISPs, and then putting it all in the internal database that I keep. So I know what ISPs are available for.
2 days, 2 days a month.
2 days a month.
Yeah, we got to cut that down. That's a lot. Kendall, anything to add to that?
Just the part that we're with the ISP providers in terms of making sure that they're stable and that they're reliable. You will run into some ISP providers who don't advertise the correct megabytes per second, maybe not including total cost revenue part of the ISP process. So when you are researching these and helping out with these individuals, always give them the confidence and idea that yes, these are ISP providers, these are your options, but there's going to be a point in time when these prices will change and this service might change. So if that does happen, you need to be aware of it and make sure it doesn't happen.
So that's part of the education that you're doing with the individuals that you're serving. Kendall, is there anything else about serving tribal communities that you want to bring up that as you've spent time with your fellow digital navigators, you've been like, it's a little different in my community?
Yeah, well, see, my situation is a little bit more different than everyone else's. I service 14 counties in the state of Oklahoma, so 7,000 square miles just for one person. There's at least 15 different towns I know of off the top of my head, not counting the Tulsa metro area that I'm currently serving as well as the broader state of Oklahoma, since apparently we have Cherokee Nation members all across the state and outside the state. So my service and what I can help out with on the Oklahoma side of things is that I'm trying to help out the communities that are local to me and that will have the most direct impact to me, but I'm not turning away anyone else that contacts me and is asking for help at that point. So the struggles, I would say, primarily is just in rural Oklahoma is that the lack of options is the one big significant benefactor.
Thank you, Kendall. Okay, Candace, uniqueness of serving the urban and suburban areas.
So we hear a lot about rural, and those of us who are in more urban, suburban communities are very sympathetic to the situation in the farmland. We have something similar happening in the urban, suburban communities. So there's wireline service. It's not fast. It's not reliable. It's not affordable. And so it's there, but many of our residents not only can't afford it, but when they have been able to afford it, it's failed them, and so they've left internet as a subscriber. So, the other thing for us is that there's this assumption that when you get into the urban and suburban communities, there's a plethora of options. So for our residents who live in the communities we're serving, there are 1 or 2 providers providing home internet service. And you are then navigating a web of phone numbers and contacts and people, and you give up. And for folks who maybe don't have the digital skills, certainly don't have mastery of an English language, they're quicker to give up because they don't know how to navigate that. And so the options, while they're more than our friends who are living in very rural communities, those options aren't always yielding a good return. Even for our residents who are in multi-dwelling unit buildings, we work with a lot of housing authorities. And sadly, those folks can't get connected. You'd think it'd be easy, right? There's fiber, or there's a connection, a wireline connection going to the door, so that everyone in all of those units have a connection, and they just don't. And the number of folks who are not connected for those reasons in our communities is significant.
Okay, thank you, Candace. Let's go back to just what is a digital navigator? Kendall, can I throw that to you?
Yeah, so primarily a digital navigator is the trusted individual within a community that can assist with all digital questions, issues, pretty much anything from basic cell phone help to how do I sign up for an ISP provider. They're just that trusted individual in the community that anyone can go to for any type of technological questions.
Perfect. Anybody want to add to Kendall's description?
Well, I want to say that on the last panel, a certain someone mentioned how difficult this work is. Mm-hmm. And you can't underestimate how hard. I've been working in equity for almost all of my career and doing equity work. This is the hardest work, the heaviest lift. You are literally going person by person, by person to build that trust. You are going door to door to door. There's no efficiencies in the model. There's no kind of group benefit. It is painstaking, painful, and especially when you're representing a government benefit and you're working with individuals who don't have that built-in trust with the government for reasons that are legitimate. You're starting with the earning of the trust, and you wonder why at the end of the day or the end of the week or the month you think, that's all the number of folks that I actually impacted. And we are constantly, and I'm sure you feel the same way, we are constantly reminding ourselves and each other, no, you did really good work and you're making an impact, because to think that we're going to impact hundreds of people on a weekly or monthly basis, it's too hard of a lift.
So wait, Candace, you mean an app isn't going to solve this?
But the number of times that we're out, and I have a team of 2 digital navigators and a program manager, the number of times that we're out somewhere and someone says, well, yeah, you can just go on the app. And I say to them, what? Okay, first of all, even if someone has a phone, which when we ask people very often, I wonder if you get the same, we'll ask folks, do you have a device? And they say, well, yeah, okay, what's your device? And they hold up their phone. Well, when was the last time any of you did all of your work, your medical, any kind of medical needs, you accessed everything only on your phone? Never. My kids don't even access everything on their phones. And so then when you hear these things like, well, there's an app for it, the app is like 10th on the list of things that we need to help have folk or help people get access to. That's not sufficient. That's not the answer.
Walter, why are humans essential to this work?
Because it takes that face-to-face, day in, day out connection, someone that builds relationships and can earn that trust. I mean, I'm a 100% disabled veteran. I work with a lot of veterans. They work for the federal government, and no offense to our good friends in the back that also work for the government, but a lot of veterans that when they get out distrust the government, distrust government programs. And so you really have to build that solid relationship to say that this really is here to help you before they'll buy into it. And even with the people that don't have that distrust, the number of times I show up in a rural community and I'm welcomed in because I already have a point of contact in that community, people go, you're not a scam? They think when I say, I'm going to sign up for this benefit that's going to give you this credit, pay directly to the ISP, or you're scamming us. Or I can help you get a free or low-cost device, you're scamming us. What do you want in return? I'm like, we don't want anything in return, just to help you.
What is your legitimacy? Kendall, why is it that somebody would trust you?
Well, when navigating new things, I'm sure I can speak to a lot of people that when navigating new things, it can be a little bit scary. You're not sure what you're understanding. You're not sure if you're even retaining the information properly. You're not even sure if you're even doing the whole process correctly. Having a trusted individual that you can go to, someone that you know has grew up in your town or at least in your state at the bare minimum, that knows your region, that knows the companies in your region, that knows how customer service works, is having someone that can do all that for you and you just pretty much let them sit back and take the information in as they're going along teaching it. It's a little bit more helpful and beneficial in the long run because this person is now going to trust you fully since they saw you do all that work. And then at that point, okay, if he can do all that work, I can do all that work. So having that individual in the community is essential to not only closing the gap, but just they will now have you available in their lifetime moving forward as, hey, this person helped me out. He knows what they're talking about. Let me just hit him back up if I have any other questions. So you're not just doing a job, but you're making connections and lifelong connections with these people, because I know at least a handful of people in my community will still call me up. I had missed a call earlier, asking me questions and just details, and like they're starting to treat this relationship more as a friendship, which is something that I'm actually proud of, because then that means they can hit me up any time of the day, and they're comfortable doing that. So I think that's what's essential.
You know, can I jump in again?
Yeah.
So we often see that deer in the headlights look, where we're wearing our Connect Lake County shirts and people are like, what are you gonna sell me? And we start with, we're not selling you anything. We're a trusted partner, we're here to support you. And unfortunately, they were just down the block where some folks sitting under a tent were saying, oh, we'll give you a free device. And they were like, great, I'd love a free device, not knowing that that free device required them to give up their ACP benefit. And so what's really important for us is to ground our work in education, right? So many of our residents are used to just being told, this is what you do this, do this, do that. We want to ground ourselves in the why. Why is this important? What does this mean? And then link it back to, well, how does that impact your life? And help our residents make decisions based on their own needs and what's important for them. And so when you then make that connection and you help to teach them, so there's part of it where sometimes we just need to do it with them, and other times where we want to empower them, right? This is all about, equity work is about empowering people to find their voice, to find their space, and to have the information that they need to self-advocate. That takes time. And I'm guessing you would agree that when you do that over and over and over again with folks, then they begin to trust you. They begin to then take your lead and say, wait, I'm feeling empowered. You know, maybe I'm going to make that next phone call, or maybe I saw how you stayed on the phone for 45 minutes. I'm going to stick with it, and I'm going to stay on the phone for 30 minutes. But we have to be very clear right off the bat, that we're not here to. You have a benefit, it's yours. We're not here to tell you how to use it. We're not here to take it from you. We want to advocate for you so that you can advocate for yourself.
I love that so much. Walter, what are some ways that you can convince folks what are some of the phrasings or the attitudes you have to convince folks they can trust you?
Well, one of the unique things about rural communities is they are very insular. The joke in rural communities in Texas is that you are an outsider till the last person that moved in before you either dies or leaves town. And an outsider has almost no credibility unless you have somebody that's a community member that will vouch for you. Right. Now, one of the ways that I've been able to build some of that trust early on, because I'm a veteran, because I'm active in veteran service organizations and other service organizations, I a lot of times will approach those groups. I've attended American Legion meetings halfway across the state of Texas to talk about our program. And normally the vets immediately go, well, you're also a vet. So that gives that language. Of course, veterans are trusted members of the community, and so when they will vouch for you, other people will begin to buy in. And so that's part of the way I've been building that digital ecosystem.
Great.
But that's a lot of it, is finding that one person that you can get that initial foothold of trust in, and then they speak on your behalf. And kind of like Pete in the video, he's a member of our American Legion post in Bryan, and he was one of the first clients I picked up. And has always been one of those ones that speak up. Like somebody was fussing one day about their phone and they couldn't do something. And Pete just grabbed him and was like, well, I know where Walt is, and immediately brought him to me.
That's
and
great.
When you start getting that kind of trust and that kind of confidence, people, as they advocate not only for themselves, will begin to advocate for others and say, well, I know a trusted person that you can go to, and they will be more than happy to help you.
That's awesome. Kendall, when you were interviewing for the position, what did you think you were interviewing for?
I told you earlier, I thought it was an IT help center, entry-level position. So I applied full confidence knowing I could get that position, but when the interview came and my interview manager told me what was going on and what I was going to be doing, I was like, oh, so it's a little bit more than just IT knowledge and background and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you're going to be doing a lot more than just IT. So when
And what made you qualified then?
So besides my vast knowledge of IT and devices in general, I have a lot of customer service background. I was in the military as well as Walter. So I just have I feel like I have a lot of life experience in my short time frame that I've been alive. And I've just been able to adapt and retain as much information as I can. And I've always been one to just improve. I'm not one to settle or just be latent and just stagnant in my development. So if I'm improving, then that means people around me will also be improving. Right. And then at that point, we'll be improving the community in general, because not just one of us is staying stagnant.
Can you see also the social abilities of all three of these people? Right? Like that's one of the reasons that's a big reason they're good at their jobs, is because that they can connect to people in their communities. They are trusted in part because of the community organizations that they're associated with, but also because of who they are. And because they believe in what they're doing, and they really are there to assist people. Let's talk about collaboration. Candace, you want to get us
Yes.
started on that?
Yes, I would love to. So we realized really early on that while broadband and digital equity work was our primary focus and our mission, that is, while that is the underpinning for many other community-based organizations, community anchor institutions, that's not their mission. And so what we've started by saying, we'll help train your teams to be able to help people enroll in ACP. We'll help train your team. And then we realized there are not teams to be trained. Like, those teams are so overtaxed and pulled in so many different directions. So we took a step back and we said, okay, we're going to come at this as your support. We're going to sit beside you. We're going to come with the expertise and the resources and go where you go and sit where you sit with your staff so that there's this natural handoff. So it started with schools. We've got great partnerships with some of our school districts, or CEP school districts, and we go in and we have office hours in their parent resource center. We go in and we hold workshops for their families. We work with our libraries where, I love the libraries where they've got digital navigators embedded in their teams, but many of our libraries don't have digital navigators. So what we said is, we'll be your digital navigator. So we sit in the libraries, we meet their patrons, we are there on a regular basis. We've got a medical school, Rosalind Franklin University, which is up in North Chicago, which is 45 minutes away from the city of Chicago. We're in the northern suburbs. They have a care coach. That care coach is out in the community giving flu shots, providing some health services. So we sit with the folks in the care coach. So someone comes to get their blood pressure checked and they might get a vaccine, and then they come to us and we talk to them about what we do. We talk to them about internet. So it's a continuum of services without burdening our community anchor institutions, because we take that role on, and then that automatically builds that trust, right? So if the Waukegan Public Library is our trusted partner, then by virtue of that relationship, their patrons are more likely to trust us. Right. And I just want to say one other thing, is that we don't want to create another place where residents have to come, like one more stop. It's hard enough for them to get to wherever they have to go that day. So we want to embed where they are already going or where they live, so that it makes it turnkey, it makes it easy for them.
Perfect. Walter, relationships?
One of my key relationships, of course, is the Department of Veterans Affairs. As a veteran, I have a close working relationship with a lot of the social workers and community care managers. And when they know a vet is in need, they are more than happy to reach out and help me make that connection. One of the other beautiful things is Easter Seals has the contract with the state of Texas to provide early childhood intervention, which is special education services for children under the age of 3. I have a close working relationship with several of the special skills trainers, occupational therapists, speech therapists that are going out and seeing a lot of families that are in very low income areas in these rural communities. And they report back and say, hey, I got a family in need of this. I can make that bridge. We've also partnered with the schools, but the other one that we partner with a lot is the Head Start programs and the WIC offices at the county level. Because those families are typically receiving WIC, TANF, SNAP, all these different benefits, and so use that as a launching point to help them get into education services or get that device, get on ACP so that they can expand their opportunities to continue to grow and develop.
Awesome. I love it. Kendall, relationships, partnerships that you rely upon?
Yeah, so right now we currently have a partnership with AT&T. They were able to actually go ahead and fund a connected learning center, which is essentially a free-to-use computer lab for the community, has fiber optic internet installed into it. I have 15 all-in-one computers stationed in my computer lab, so you don't have to be Indigenous to use it. You just come on in, let me know what you need assistance with. If you feel comfortable enough and you just need to use a computer, okay, I'll let you be. But if you feel like you need some technical help, technical skills, I'm also available on site to help out with. So that's one of the partnerships that we have with one of the outside resources that I've been able to contact with. Another one that I'm doing with is a local ISP, just getting the word about ACP out to the local community for their I guess, service area. So I've been helping them out in terms of getting the word for ACP signups through their reliable fiber optic internet that they have available.
Gotcha.
And right now, they're probably one of the ISPs that actually do trust in the area. So it's been great that I got that partnership stabled and built. And it's important to build these relationships because if you're just doing this by yourself as a digital navigator and you don't have resources, it's going to be very daunting and challenging to even get anything remotely done. And I think it'd be a little bit harder for people to trust you if you don't already have at least a base form of partnership with your local ISP providers, device distributors, or any other companies that do nonprofit work as well.
Right. Thank you, Kendall. Other tools and resources. Candace, you want to start? Things that you find useful?
So we were very fortunate that we received a grant from Digitunity to help us dip our toe in the digital skill building space. We started with ACP work, then we moved to distributing devices, and now we're really starting to grow our digital skill building work. And so this grant enabled us to start with some kind of basic skill building workshops. And what we realized was, we talk about what used to be the three-legged stool, but now NDIA's got the beautiful road with the path, right? And so we've got internet, we've got devices, we've got digital skills, and we've got tech support. And so we realized that the partnership between a device and the skill building needs to be in our work needs to be a little bit more tightly combined.
Okay.
So we're saying to folks, look, you need a device. We're not just going to hand out devices. We want to make sure you've enrolled in ACP if you can, if you're eligible, and we want you to take some digital skill workshops. And after you've completed a series of digital workshops with this device, you get to keep the device. And now you've created that continuum. You've helped them go down that path. So we're finding we're going to build on that a little bit more as we create a more robust digital skill building world. And think about the other swag, I guess you'd say, is can we start providing people with headsets or even with earbuds or something? Because think about how many of our residents they don't have quiet space. Right? Some of us take that for granted. If you need to go work or you need to go have a telehealth appointment, there's not quiet around you. And so what are some of the other accoutrements that you could give to folks, right? The swag that is valuable to them, and you pair it together. They're not one-offs. We see all these things as building on each other.
Right. Anyone else? Tools and resources?
A lot of the clients I work with have, because whether they're in veteran status or because of the work that Eastern Seals is best known for, have a variety of disabilities. And so a lot of what I do is help not only provide the device or help them find the device, but make the device accessible for their needs. I have several clients that are vision impaired or hearing impaired. And so we install free programs like Morphic on it, where it puts the entire accessibility features of their Windows laptop on one neat toolbar. So they can click one icon, blow up their font, or they click one icon and automatically have access to a magnifying device. I had another client, vision impaired. She dropped her Android phone, shattered the screen. So I showed her how to connect her Android phone to Windows so that she can pull up all of her text messages and actually see them on her computer.
That's brilliant, Walter. Can I just tell you that?
Right.
Because otherwise she could look at her screen and she could make out about every other word. But now she can communicate people because she can actually see it on the big screen. And so a lot of the work that we do is finding those tools, helping people get their device to where they can use it given what issues they may have or what concerns they may have.
Thank you. How important is it, Kendall, to talk to peers? You started in August, yes?
Yes.
How important is it to talk to folks like these two folks?
Very important if you just start off a job and hit the ground running. So having you guys available, the NDIA cohort, and as well as other cohorts that I've been able to affiliate with, thank you, first of all. It's been great just to have immediate community. You don't find that very much in any type of work or field that you go into where you're immediately accepted into the workforce and they try to do their best to bring you up to speed as the best as they can through their abilities. So it's important and it's essential, and I feel like if you start this work without any type of help, good luck. It's not going to be easy, especially if you don't have resources or have any idea what to do when it comes to digital navigation services and stuff like this.
I just want to, I'm going to shamelessly plug the NDIA listserv. I started doing this work a little over a year ago, and I didn't know how I was going to fit the acronyms alone. And I come from the charter school world, and I come from doing health equity work and the acronyms. And there was not a time when I did not reach out on that listserv and didn't find someone who was willing to help. Miles and miles and miles away, different constituents, different work that they were doing, and it's all about paying it forward. And it happens on a regular basis daily. And you almost feel badly. Someone posted a question. I was getting on the plane last night. I'm like, I got to get back to her. And I was like, okay, I can get back to her tomorrow. So that sense of community, I haven't seen anything like this since I was starting up charter schools a million years ago. It's
That warms my heart. Thank
amazing.
you, Candace. Walter's success story.
Oh, there's so many. My favorite one is I had a veteran client in a rural community towards the coastal area of Texas. She wanted to go back to school, but did not have a device. She had gone through a rough period. We were able to provide the device. We were able to do that digital skills work. And when I was calling to follow up with her, I said, how are things going? She goes, I need a new ISP. I said, well, what's going on? She said, my connection right now, the only one I can afford is 4 megabits per second. And she said, so I said, well, what's that like? She goes, well, to watch my 15-minute pre-recorded video from my professor, it takes me 30 to 45 minutes. And my boyfriend likes to play video games, and so we have to schedule out our time over who has access to the internet when. We got her signed up on the Affordable Connectivity Program. We were able to find out that the new company had just put fiber into her network or to her neighborhood, and she could afford the fiber with the ACP, and we got her from 4 megabits per second to 400.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so she's able to do her schoolwork while her boyfriend's playing on his
Awesome.
Xbox.
Kendall, success story.
So I just started. The success story that I am fond of right now, thanks to Abby kind of pointing it out, is Elder had contacted out to a tribal member, and then that tribal member contacted to me, letting me know that that person had just had a pacemaker installed, I guess a new model, where the doctor can get updates via Wi-Fi. So she had no internet connection, no way to be able to actually do this type of technology. She thought she was just going to have to go in to the doctor every time she needed to go to the doctor for these appointments. Now, this woman is probably in her 80s from what her daughter was saying. So this is end-of-life care. This isn't anything to help progress them and obtain, more things for them to live. This is essentially, this person's probably on the last end of where they're going to be, and we're just trying to make them comfortable. Cherokee Nation thankfully has a hotspot distribution program that we've instilled and been able to utilize. Now, how many people are on that program? It's way up there. I can't pull the number off the top of my head. But I got her signed up on our hotspot distribution program, and while I was doing that, because I know she needed a base connection to start off somewhere, I was able to get in touch with her daughter and walk her daughter through signing up the ACP program over the phone. And while I had her on the phone, I was like, if you want to do it while I'm on the phone, we can knock this out in like 15 minutes. Yeah. So we knocked it out in 15 minutes. I told her, you're going to have to wait for your approval. Once you get your approval, call me back. We'll get you set up with an ISP provider. A couple weeks go by, she got her approval. We contacted an ISP provider that was stable enough for her her mother's needs. And her mom is on the ISP program, has a hotspot connection provided through the Cherokee Nation as a secondary backup. And from what I can understand, they've been set up to, and thankful that they've had this resource, because otherwise this elder would not have any way to get her pacemaker updates to her doctor.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
I have a success story. Can I share it? Okay. I have a quick success story.
Yeah.
A woman who lived in subsidized housing. She is considered a senior and doesn't speak English. So we helped her apply for ACP. Then it turns out her user ID wasn't being accepted by the ISP. So we go down that whole road. So then she files a complaint. We file a complaint, an FCC complaint on behalf of her. She would never have done this in a million years. So then we're told, okay, she, because of privacy rules, it's being taken care of. We follow back up with her. She says, yeah, I have the internet. And that device that you're giving, now this is in Spanish, so I'm translating, but back to you in English. So, and the device you gave me, I'm learning how to use it. And we said, okay, well, but we want to make sure that your credit was applied to your account. What do you mean? Well, how much are you paying? Because it should be zero based on, well, I don't know. Well, look at your bill. I don't get a bill. The money just gets taken from my bank account. Okay, well, let's pull up your bank statement. What do you mean pull up your bank statement? I get bank statements. Sometimes I get them once a month, a paper bank statement, sometimes three times. And meanwhile, as I'm on the phone listening and someone's translating, the steam is coming out of my ears. And so I said, look, this is the problem. She has internet now. She has a device. She's learning the digital skills, but she doesn't know what to do with all of that. And so I said, first, we're going to help her set up an online account with her ISP. We're going to hold her hand through the whole process, make sure she knows what her password is and her login information. And we're going to see what she's paying, what's on the bill. Then we're going to get in touch with her bank, and we're going to set her up with online banking so that she doesn't have to wait for paper statements to come in the mail. And she doesn't even know that that's a possibility. And so that's why this work can't just end at getting people signed up with ACP and getting their benefit applied to their account. It has to go beyond that, because the minute ACP sunsets, whether there's something else or not, people are going to say, I don't need internet anymore. Unless we teach them and show them why, and they believe this is important to my life, they're going to say, oh, the benefit's there. It's not worth it for me to spend that money anymore. And they're going to go back. That digital divide, any work that we've done on closing that divide is going to go right back to where we are.
Again, why the humans are necessary. So the amazing work, particularly that Kendall and Walter are doing, is in large part because of Abby. Abby, would you like wave your hand, please? Yay, Abby. Abby leads our National Digital Navigator course. If you have any questions about the National Digital Navigator course, you should go talk to Abby. She's a rock star. And Christy is the director that leads that program and many others. Christy, raise your hand. You can also talk to Christy. So big thank you to my 3 rock stars up here. And if you get a chance to chat with them one-on-one, I highly encourage it. I think we're done. Do we have questions? Oh, I thought we were done.
Yes.
Sorry.
First off, you guys are getting a lot of love from the chat, so I just wanted to let you guys know that. 2 questions. One is someone is asking for that software that you were talking about earlier, the one that makes it more accessible for the visually impaired.
Okay. It's called Morphic.
Spell it, Walter.
Morphic, if I remember correctly.
Great, thank you. And the other question is, how do we find where our area's digital navigators and other resources are located?
That's a difficult question. The closest we can get is on NDIA's website. There's a map of all of our affiliates and there's a database of the affiliates, which are organizations who provide digital inclusion programming of any kind. They might only focus on digital skill building, they might only focus on devices, they might also do connectivity, or they do all of those things. So that's a place to start, but a goal of ours is to have a better list of those. And if one needs to find a particular area, best person to talk to is Abby.
And you know what else? I also think Education Superhighway. If you go onto their website, and I think there's a way either on the app that they have to sign up for ACP. I believe there's something on the Education Superhighway app website that can help you get to digital navigators in your area.
We'll double check that.
Yeah.
Because
No?
yeah, I would just be a little hesitant.
Okay.
Just because it's hard. We've tried.
Okay.
So if there's a list, probably we know where those.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Do we have other questions?
We have another question from online. How do you all deal with the burnout you might experience from this work?
That's a great question. Candace, would you like to go first?
Well, Abby brought me a Diet Coke, so I've been talking about this recently, that I have these moments where I truly question, is it worth it? Why am I doing this? I'm not making a dent. My team, we're all just burnt out. This work is really hard. And what I have to keep reminding myself is to stop thinking about the work and think about the people. And so then I take those moments when I can and think about the residents that I've worked with, with whom I've worked, and my team, the stories that they're relaying to me. And I think about how their lives are improving and the social determinants of health are being impacted. And then that reminds me of why I do this, and that fills me up and keeps me going for another 24 hours until I bang my head against the wall again.
Thank you, Candace. Kendall, do you?
So on the burnout, for me, essentially, since I just started a couple months ago, you don't fully understand what you're getting into until you start the job and you hit the ground running, and you just go in the office every day and you're checking your emails, you're checking your calls, you're checking off your list, who you need to be talking to, what you need to be building for your program, who you need to be networking with, what devices I need to be getting, or how to even get devices. If you're just one individual and you're trying to figure all this out by yourself without having proper community or resources, burnout's going to happen. It's one of the things that happens with a lot of work. So for me, when it comes to burnout, take a break. 10 minutes throughout the day. Go on your mandatory breaks that are allotted to you. When I clock off for work, I try to forget about work, but that doesn't happen.
No, because you keep answering your phone.
So, even outside of work, I'll keep finding myself coming back thinking about work, but I have to understand that in order for me to be successful at this position, I also need to have my mental health in check and my personal health in check. So if I can balance those a little bit easier, the work and the burnout doesn't seem to come as much compared to how it first was in the first month. And my mind was blown. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know if I was doing a good job. I didn't even know if I was doing anything correctly. Right. But again, having you guys available cohorts let me know that y'all are still on the same path that I'm on, even though I just started. It's comforting, and it helps with the burnout for sure.
Excellent. Thank you, Kendall.
My name is Juan. I'm Executive Director at Free Geek Portland, Oregon. How are you getting your devices? We are a nonprofit refurbisher, so I refurbish about 10,000 devices a year. But how are you connecting folks to devices?
We looked at the first 16 devices we had were machines primarily that came out of our ECI program that were rotated out of use. So our IT department in-house refurbished those. Since then, we've been looking at a variety of different refurbishers and putting in requests to purchase computers.
So for me, I was lucky enough to have a existing relationship with AT&T through the Cherokee Nation. I think they've been partnered together for a handful of years now, and it's just been a partnership that they've been building on continuously. I've just been fortunate enough that we, with digital navigation services, opened up a department where we can utilize more of what we can get through AT&T. So they provided 15 all-in-ones. They provided me free internet access for my computer lab, and right now I'm currently working on a program to get 300 odd something laptops, Dells or Lenovo's, to our charter school, Sequoia High School, so that way every student can get a personal computer once they leave the high school.
We're using private funding to purchase low-cost either Chromebooks or really kind of small laptops. We are also right now exploring a partnership with a local organization that does some device refurbishing and actually a tech campus of one of our community colleges. They've got a high school tech campus that is refurbishing Chromebooks. And so we've got someone providing them with Chromebooks. They're being refurbished, and we're going to partner with them to try and get more of them out into the communities. And potentially, we're hoping to be able to go into our prisons and jails in Lake County and be able to teach refurbishing. So that would be another pipeline. If we can keep the flow of devices that need to be refurbished, we'd have kind of a homegrown refurbishing pipeline.
Juan, can folks come talk to you?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
We also have a shipper. I won't name names because I don't know if he'll do it for anyone else, but a logistics company that is willing to work with us to be able to ship. One of the struggles we've had is refurbishers that are outside of Illinois, the cost to get those devices to us in Illinois, and we think we'll be able to work with a shipper that will be able to get those devices from wherever anyone is to us in Illinois.
Juan, is that music to your ears? I thought maybe.
So this isn't really a question. It's a hopeful message to all of you. in my work, I talk to over 3,000 subscribing organizations across the country on digital skills. And I often hear how valuable digital navigators are. I've had people who did not know how to use a computer learn how to use a computer, email me to tell me, the work that you're doing, how much it means to them. And I would say, back to our first panel, one of the reasons I think that, ACP, the funding, and also for digital navigation is so important is although it may feel like there's a lot of patients involved in digital navigation, you are spending a lot of time with an individual. But what I am hearing is that those people, I'm in the digital skills, but once they gain those skills, they are going out to their community. And it's a huge web so the funding, why should we fund it and take away from other programs? Well, I think it may eventually help other programs because people are getting these skills. They're teaching it to their family members. They're teaching it to their community members. They're sharing this knowledge. So when you're feeling like, oh my gosh, this has been such a hard day, just realize that you're helping every individual, but a lot of the people that they touch, you're also helping. So
Thank you.
Great.
Eric Friedel with the Shelby Coalition. You guys are all obviously bringing a lot of value to your communities. So I'm just curious about the funding that underlies you and the sustainability of that and how you look at that. I know, Walter and Kendall, you said you've got grants through Google and NDIA, and maybe Easter Seals, for example. That's a pretty big program, I would guess. And Candace, I know you're like a pretty new nonprofit, so you came into being to do this kind of work. Anyway, I'd just like to hear a little bit more about that.
We started out getting private funding, philanthropy. We have been very fortunate that one of our municipalities provides us funding through CDBG funds. And we applied for the FCC grants, the Your Home, Your Internet pilot. We're partnered with a housing authority, and we're partnered, we have a grant where we're the recipient for the ACP outreach. It is getting harder and harder to raise those funds. There is some money coming from our state broadband office. We're hoping that we'll get some funding through that. I am 70% of my job right now is fundraising, and we're trying to hit it from every which way you can. And it's crazy. I went to a healthcare foundation talking about the work that we did and how it aligns with addressing the social determinants of health, and the response back was, "Oh, we don't fund social determinants of health work." I thought, what? So we're doing everything we can to uncover new sources of funding, and to the extent we can partner. Again, this is where that collaboration is so important. So to the extent that we can partner with an organization that's doing work with the same community, we can show how there's a continuum, and so that funding impacts multiple organizations. There's different access points. We're very grateful in Lake County to our private funders. They're sustaining us right now.
Yeah, and so the funding for Kendall and Walter's positions is the grant that NDIA has through google.org, and so it's funding 18 sites in rural and tribal communities.
But when the funding runs out for me, I don't think I'm going to have much of an issue there. I'm just one small part of a bigger organization. We have a department for grant writers and people that request the grants. So thankfully, I don't have to do all that because that sounds like another step that I don't have anyways. But if we can't get a grant, I'm sure Cherokee Nation hopefully will see the work that I've done and how valuable it is, and will decide to fund me since we are our own for-profit nation as well. We have our own ways to get revenue, so I'm not really too worried about that.
Yeah, that's a big piece of all this is making sure that the value is understood. So it's not only that Kendall do amazing work, but that people know Kendall's doing amazing work. And panels like these are important for getting that awareness out that they all do amazing work, and it then does help them fundraise.
Well, and I also want to say this, I was talking to Bruce about this because he raised the question earlier about, the investment, the return on that investment. And And you can look at it two different ways. You can look at it more from a national level, and the investment and what are the results, what's our return on that investment. But what Bruce and I were talking about is what about in the individual home, in the household? What's that return on their investment? That's really hard, and there's no kind of
Like formula.
formula for doing that. And so we're scratching our heads now trying to figure out, how are we going to do that? How can we show that when your household got it, what are the right metrics to look at? How do we stay in touch with you so that we can gather that data and then report that data out to show that return on investment? Because I don't blame anyone for saying, like, I'm not going to refund you until you show me the return on investment. Okay, understand though that doing the work and trying to gather the data is two mountains that you're climbing at the same time. But we as practitioners on the ground have to get smart about how we're getting that data, because then you can't argue with data, right? I can tell you emotionally all the reasons why we do this work, but let me show you the data why it's important to fund this work.
That's right.